Hi, and thank you for joining us for this Spotify for Artists Masterclass. My name is Bryan Johnson, and I'm on the music team here at Spotify. In this episode, we're going to talk about artificial streaming. This is something that impacts the entire music ecosystem, from artists and songwriters, to rights holders, to the fans listening to your music. It's a topic that we hear about so often through your feedback and the comments that we see on socials. We know how much this matters, so we wanted to dedicate a masterclass to look at what artificial streaming is, how you can avoid it, and what Spotify is doing to tackle this industry-wide issue. To help us unpack even further, we'll be joined by Andreea Gleeson, CEO of Tunecore, who's at Electric Lady Studios in New York, and David Martin, CEO of the Featured Artists Coalition, here at our London HQ. Andreea and David will be talking about how artificial streaming directly impacts the artist community and why taking action is so important. Let's begin by looking at what artificial streaming is. We say that an artificial stream is a stream that doesn't reflect genuine user listening intent. Now, think about that in the context of unusual, weird activity, something that doesn't represent genuine listening behavior, such as a bot, a script, or any automated process that is designed to manipulate streaming services like Spotify. Why is artificial streaming so bad? Well, quite frankly, it undermines the fair playing field that streaming represents. If left unchecked, artificial streams can dilute the royalty pool and shift money away from artists who are genuinely trying to release music and build an audience, and it can divert that money to bad actors looking to take advantage of the system. So how has this come about? How did we actually get here? Well, since the recorded industry's financial low point in 2014, streaming growth has turned things around. In 2024, global recorded revenue approached $30 billion, and streaming accounted for 2/3 of that, with Spotify alone accounting for roughly 1/3. And when there's money to be made, there will also be bad actors trying to find a way in. Their aim is to take advantage and manipulate streams for their own financial gain, or to scam artists by promising increased stream counts in exchange for money. Our aim is to help artists find and build authentic connections with legitimate human fans who listen to their music and invest in them as artists. We don't want to see hardworking artists being scammed or caught in the crossfire.
I'm Andreea Gleeson. I'm the CEO of Tunecore, and I have the incredible opportunity to support artists all over the world to get their music out and essentially help them grow.
Hi, I'm David Martin. I'm the CEO of the Featured Artists Coalition. We are the UK artist representative body. So we're set up by artists around 2009, and we exist to represent the rights and interests of artists, both within the industry and to governments, both domestically and internationally. And we exist to give artists a collective voice.
Artificial streaming is not something that's happening in just a couple places in the world. It is now everywhere. It is in every market, every continent, and every artist should be paying attention to it.
Often artists aren't intentionally seeking to manipulate streaming or get involved in services with bad actors. What they're trying to do is they're trying to build authentic connections with their fans.
Many of us that are distributors are getting reports from the DSPs on high levels of artificial streaming, and we will notify our artists when we're seeing it. So for an artist that's starting out, maybe they hired a marketing firm that they thought was going to actually do PR and comms and marketing strategy for them, but instead hired a bot farm and did artificial streaming. But for the bigger artists, it even happens to them. And it could be a fan who's like, bot ads, or a member of the team. We're trying to be creative, and it happens.
Most artists that we speak to understand what it is now, or have come across it now, or have experienced problems with streaming manipulation and fraudulent streams. So yeah, I think it's becoming increasingly widespread.
It's very, very important that we protect the ecosystem because we want as much of the royalty pool to go to artists with legitimate listeners and make sure that they're the ones that are benefiting from all their hard work.
Paying for a service to help promote your music can feel legitimate, given that there's a long history of artists doing so. Artists have always hired radio and TV pluggers to get their music featured on radio playlists and TV spots. They've hired publicists and social media experts to build out press strategies and online strategies. And these services, when authentic, they are an established part of the music ecosystem, and they can genuinely help grow your career. However, on Spotify, and streaming services, artists need to be more cautious. There are a lot of services targeting artists that are not what they appear to be.
We're seeing artists get contacted on social media frequently. Often they're getting DMs, and then if they actually were to research those companies, they don't exist or they don't have a footprint. It is, we will guarantee you this. We will guarantee you these fans. We will guarantee you this reach. We will guarantee you these streams. That's always a red flag. If anybody is guaranteeing that they can get you on playlists or they can boost your fans, I would say avoid that. I would say do your research. If it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true.
If you are a musician today, you're probably getting all of these ads that are saying, hey, I'm going to get you on your playlist. What's better is that you use the native tools that are made available to you by the DSPs themselves. So in Spotify for Artists, you have amazing access to marketing tools that you should be taking advantage of. The playlist pitch tool is right in Spotify, and it's free for you to use.
Bad actors may claim to be able to get a song streamed, playlisted, or prioritized in our editorial playlists and algorithmic recommendations. To be crystal clear, you can't buy your way onto a playlist. Any service charging you money to get on a Spotify playlist, including non-editorial ones, is a scam. And they may add your music to botted playlists. Let's talk about botted playlists. It's an increasingly common tactic, and it's a great cause of frustration for artists. In this scheme, artist music is added to playlists controlled by the bad actors, who then drive botted streams in an attempt to inflate the stream count of your music, before then targeting you on socials with a message, essentially selling themselves as a legit promo service that can guarantee streams and playlist placements. And they'll offer to do it again, but this time for a fee. Now, this may happen if the artist has paid for the service thinking it's legit on the promise of the guaranteed streams and playlist ads, but sometimes it's happening against the artist's will and they have no knowledge of it whatsoever. We understand how annoying this is. We hear you. It's annoying to have your music be added to these kinds of playlists, especially if you haven't ever engaged for service. And that's why we're taking action against them each and every day. And we're working with partners right across the industry to identify these cases and ensure that artists aren't unfairly punished. We're doing a good job catching these playlists, but with your help, we are catching some even faster. Based on your feedback, we recently launched a playlist reporter form. So now, if you notice abnormal activity within your Spotify data, and if you believe you've been added to one of these suspicious playlists, you can inform us directly at the URL that's on screen right now. Our team will then investigate further to see if the playlist is engaged in artificial streaming before taking the appropriate action. To be clear, this botted playlist scenario, while you might hear about it a lot on social media, it's actually the small minority of total artificial streaming cases that we come across. We understand how frustrating it is if you're caught up in any of this. And that's why we're investing heavily in tech and resources to detect artificial streams and enforce policies as quickly as possible to deter bad actors from doing it in the first place.
At Tunecore, we've done a lot of investment to help us detect accounts that are potentially going to come in and be bad actors. And then we do a lot of work to try to, within our own data, be able to identify it proactively and take down content, especially from overt bad actors. But what we saw a couple of years ago is that I would catch somebody and then they'd appear again on the platform because they came through another distributor. So several of us that are tackling the same problem actually got together a couple of years ago. We formulated an alliance, and it's called Music Fights Fraud Alliance. So the Music Fights Fraud Alliance is a coalition of companies across streaming platforms, distributors, labels that have come together to be able to put our resources and brains against how do we fight fraud. That goes from how do we detect it? How do we mitigate it? How do we enforce it? We say that we want to eradicate fraud. That is like our mission, and we're going to get as close to it as possible. Ultimately, our goal is to get more money in the pockets of real artists with real fans.
This is something we take seriously at every level, all around the world. And our efforts are working. Less than 1% of all streams on Spotify are determined to be artificial. Our policy is that when we detect any artificial streams, the following penalties are applied. Those streams do not earn royalties. They are fully removed from royalty calculations and do not dilute the royalty pool in any way. Those streams do not count towards public stream numbers, monthly listener count, or charts. Those streams do not positively influence recommendation algorithms. And all artificial streams are reported to the label or distributor. In some of the most severe cases, The song may be removed from Spotify playlists, and labels and distributors will be charged per track when significant artificial streaming is detected on their content. And this charge may then be passed on to the artist whose tracks are detected as artificially streamed. The distributor or label of the track, after being informed of the artificial streaming by Spotify, may independently issue warnings, suspend the user's account, or remove the music from our platform altogether.
I get a lot of questions after it's already happened to the artist. What can I do to actually troubleshoot? If you got the warning email and your music hasn't been taken down, then you need to respond back to that form to us. And then you can get in front of potentially a more devastating consequence. And then if your music has been taken down, do the same thing. And then what we will do is try to work with our DSP partner to be able to try to bring the music back if possible. And it is always our interest to try to do that because it's super important. Our desire is to have our artist music be up. I mean, that is why we're in business. But we also want to be able to catch bad actors who are trying to defraud the system and deplete the royalty pool. So this is where you providing information and showing us that you're a real artist with real fans and maybe got caught up in something a little more background will help us be able to connect those dots to separate the overt bad actors from maybe somebody who hired a marketing firm and then had this happen to them.
We've seen it happen on like 2 days after album release, for example, and artists have had their music removed by either platforms or by distributors because there's been streaming manipulation on them. They've engaged the service that's probably sounded too good to be true. They've possibly not done the research that they should have done, but it's usually not intentional. And the impact is devastating. You've spent months, years building up to a release and aligning all of the schedule and all the promotional material for it to be taken down or for it to be impacted by streaming manipulation. It's devastating for an artist.
So hopefully you've avoided one of these dodgy services. But let's say you did engage a service. How would you know if there's been artificial streaming on your music? Looking at your Spotify for Artists data can sometimes give you insight, but it's worth noting that the product isn't designed to show artificial streams, and this can cause some confusion. So let me explain. Around half the time, our team catches and removes artificial streams before they even hit your dashboard. We'll still report the artificial streams to your label or distributor, but you won't see them reflected anywhere in Spotify for Artists. For other artificial streams, we detect them after they've already reached your dashboard. And that means you can see evidence in your data.
For an artist, something you may see is suddenly, hey, I have this track going super viral and there's a huge spike happening here. And you're like, you get excited. You're like, great. But what drove that? You have to follow it back. And if there isn't a good reason that occurred, it was probably happened artificially. The real obvious ones, if you go in and look at your data and you see that all of your streams look like they're the same across all of your DSPs, that's very unrealistic. You're going to have variation across your DSPs. Now, the opposite of that is when you see, oh, I'm really low down here on all these DSP platforms, but then over here on this DSP platform, I'm super high. That's not normal. Another really great way to detect is to be able to see, okay, in all of these markets, I look like I'm at this level, but suddenly I'm having a huge spike and it's like 10, 20x. Where it gets more sophisticated is when there is artificial streaming at more low volumes that more kind of mimic your natural listenership over longer periods. That is much harder to detect, but the spikes usually will be an indication.
If artists spot anything irregular, contact your label, contact your distributor, contact the platform, and do that quickly. And the faster the artists do that, the better, the more chance there is of them curbing the activity and the less chance of it having an impact on them reaching genuine fans, on their genuine ability to promote their music.
So what actions can you take and how can you avoid being potentially scammed? First of all, don't be fooled into paying for playlist placement. Our playlist pitch form is the only way to pitch your upcoming, unreleased music to our editors for consideration. And it's also how to get your pitch track added to followers' algorithmic playlists, such as Release Radar. You will never be asked to pay for these services. Do your research. If you do want to hire a third-party service to help legitimately market or promote your music, just make sure they're the real deal. Ask them questions about how they promote, what methods do they use, speak to other artists, and look online for reviews. If you believe the company may engage in artificial streaming, steer clear. Of course, you want to encourage your fans to listen to your music on Spotify, but any coordinated effort to stream your music inauthentically will be picked up by our detection systems and could result in penalties. So don't fan boost. Your fans' energy is better spent supporting you in so many other ways. Remember to report any suspicious playlists. We launched a playlist reporter form so you can directly inform us if you notice abnormal activity in your data and if you believe you've been added to a suspicious playlist. And of course, inform your distributor or label and share details with them also. Okay, time to wrap things up. Artificial streaming is a huge focus for us, and we are taking action each and every day to safeguard the Spotify platform for you and your music. One of the difficult and tricky things about artificial streaming education is that we can never share all the tactics and methods we're using because we don't want to alert the bad actors. As soon as we publicly announce that we're doing something, they may immediately react and change tactics. But trust us, this is a priority, and we are working closely with all partners right across the industry to eradicate the negative impact that artificial streaming can have. A huge thank you for joining us for this episode. As always, we'd love to keep in touch through our socials. Keep an eye on those channels as well as Spotify for Artists itself for more on our masterclasses and other programs. I've been Bryan Johnson. This has been the Spotify for Artists Masterclass. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.